What up, cut up? I'm Nathan McDougal, and this is the very first episode of A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. Man, I'm so excited to have you here. Before we get started, just a real quick few things I wanted to fill you in on. First and foremost, I wrote a book in April of 2019. I published my first book. It was a collection of short stories titled A Poor Excuse for a Book. Well, we decided to follow that up with this podcast, A Poor Excuse for a Podcast, which is basically a deep dive into every individual story into that book. Kind of like a director's commentary, a little bit more information, a little bit more behind the scenes, a little bit more fun to each of those stories. Now, if you have not read the book, do not worry. You can still follow along. You'll still have a lot of fun. But if you do want to snatch your own copy of the book, you can check the YouTube description. There will be a link, and you'll be able to follow that link, and you'll be able to, grab your book, show your support, and check that out. Speaking of YouTube, if you are watching, please like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. That support really helps out. If you are not watching YouTube, but if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or through Spotify, give your boy a few stars or make a comment, subscribe on there as well. I believe that is all. With no further ado, we will hop right into the very first episode of A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. Once again, so excited, so glad you're here. Got a lot of great stuff coming. So stay tuned, stay with us. We're going in. Hello world, welcome to A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. I'm Nathan McDougal. You can call me Nate, or you can call me Ransom. I don't want that to catch you by surprise. And today I have with me, joining me, my brother from another mother, Trace.
What up, what up?
And then I got world-renowned cheddar cheese.
What's happening?
And then I got, the hitman of all hitmen, Bucci.
What's up, man?
This is the first episode of A Poor Excuse for a Podcast in conjunction with A Poor Excuse for a Book. And today we go dive deep into Ignorance is Bliss. That's chapter 1. That's the first story from the book, which you may or may not have heard of. That's how it goes sometimes. But stay with us. We're going to dive into this, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go pour you a drink, because we all got poured up drinks. And let's do it.
Every time we link up, it's a hit. And every time we pull up, what's up? We with the shit. And every time we roll up, it's the spliff. Niggas try to hold up, you getting hit, bite. Don't take it personally, this may not work for you. I keep that burner with me, might end up hurting you. Physically I ate the track, verbally I state the facts. Herbally I smoke the best, change the game, keep the rest. Money make a mindset, penny to a dime cent. Flip a Michael Kors from a motherfucking time mix.
In my nature. Welcome back, and as I said again, hello world, welcome to A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. And even to just spark off how this whole thing is, what this whole thing is, the whole intro of Hello World got a backstory. Everything got a backstory behind it. I'm 90% backstory. So just to dive into it, just to you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Just spark it off.
Yeah.
Hello World comes from, we have an uncle. I have an uncle, or had an uncle, he passed away, but his name was Billy, but for some reason we call him McDougal, which is our last name. I don't know why we called our uncle by his last name, but he used to drink. He was a drinker.
A whole lot of drinking.
Wild Irish Rose was his drink of choice. And he used to have a lot of catchphrases. This is my grandmother's brother. He used to have a lot of catchphrases. And like he used to say, a day without wine is like a day without sunshine. Yeah. And he also, when we used to walk into my grandmama's house, he just used to blurt out randomly, "Hello world," and so that's where "Hello World" comes from. So that's a gem for you to spark it off. But to go even further, this is A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. I'm Nathan McDougal, and what I did is I wrote a book. A collection of short stories called A Poor Excuse for a Book, which hopefully you read before you found this, but if you didn't, just stay here anyway and just act like you read it, make it up as you go. I'm making it up as I go, and then go back and read it, or if you read, get the read. We'll get the reading and watching situation squared away. But there was a book called A Poor Excuse for a Book, It's a bunch of short stories. Half of them are nonfiction, and then not half, but a little bit less than half of them are fiction stories. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do a deep dive into each of those stories, and I'll kind of let you know where my mind was at when I was writing them, or what memories they came from the nonfiction ones, or what dreams they came from for the fiction ones. And man, we're just gonna discuss it. You're gonna sit with the crew, man, while we have a few drinks and have some conversation, and shit, that's gonna be that. So with that out the way, we gonna get started. And so that's the book. And the first chapter in the book is a story called Ignorance is Bliss. And I'm gonna give you a real quick recap of that. And that is basically when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was in the projects. We, family, we came out the mud, so we came from the bottom to the top, as you can say. But I was in the projects at my auntie house, and there was a blackout, and I have to, as a kid, 7 or 8 years old, the perfect time, I gotta pee, I gotta take a piss. So I go out of the project building. Everybody's on the porch, so we out of the project building. But I go around to the back of the building to pee, and I find a dead body, like just laying out in the backyard, stretched out, eyes wide open, looking up at the sky, mouth wide open. And I should have been like, oh, snap, is it there? But instead, I was like, damn, it's somebody died. I gotta pee though. So I just turned around on the building, you know what I mean, and just peed. And I walked back around in front of the building, didn't say nothing to nobody, and just sat back down and continued whatever conversation I was having. And the whole thing of that is my innocence shielded me from, what probably should have been a traumatic experience. And I, just to give you a little bit of backstory on that story, that is the first chapter of the book. And I actually originally wrote that out when I was in college for a communications class. And the professor wanted us to tell a story that really spoke about who we were, or where we had come from, or just something that besides, hi, my name is Nathan and I want to do this and that. He wanted something a little bit deeper. And I was like, dang, you know what? I found a dead body a long time ago. You know what I mean? And that was really, since it happened, the first time I had even really thought about it. But yeah, man, that is Ignorance is Bliss. And these are my fellas here, and we just gonna, dive more into it. Yeah, chop that up. So as my brothers, everybody at this table is like a brother to me. When y'all peeped that particular story, did it bring to mind anything for you, or
definitely?
Yeah,
I'll say the first thing I thought of when I was around, like, wow, okay, so what happened in my life did I shift from and say, okay, was that a situation where it was, something just like that, where I encountered something that should have been a traumatic experience, but for whatever reason I didn't react in that way. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, then what can I really say about my perspective on my optimism, my being pessimistic, and so forth. Right. So I appreciated that though, that that sit time with it, to try to figure that out. And for sure, I had, I thought about myself and what type of situations that I was in, that I was like, okay, yeah, that was definitely a situation. Yeah. And of course, now I reference that situation when I think about my lack of response to certain things that in other ways should be a situation where it may be traumatic. I guess that's still based off the perspective. Yeah. But I appreciate that part about it.
And we are very similar with kind of like a nonchalant demeanor, right? And let a lot of things kind of just roll past and roll through. So I could definitely see that where you kind of clicked and hit with those similarities there, right?
And then it roll off of them. Yeah, it's like when you think about like the earliest memories though, mine necessarily wasn't it was a traumatic experience. It didn't roll off. You know how like when you with your grandparents and you doing something you have no business doing. Yeah. For example, pissing on the side of the bed. Yeah, right. Pissing on the side of the bed. Right. But I was outside and playing with a bucket of sawdust for some strange reason, playing with a bucket of sawdust.
Yeah.
And I dropped it, and sawdust flew everywhere. In my eyes, everything. Yeah. So I go to the front of the house, and I'm telling my girl, it's before she died or whatever. I'm telling her, like, oh, I can't see something in my eyes. Yeah. And she instantly, before she asked me what was wrong, anything, I don't know if she seen sawdust on my clothes, but she whooped my ass first. So she whooped me, and then was like, well, why would you back there playing with it anyway? So I was like, well, how did you know? Right. But yeah, that was just like, it was traumatic for me. I'm thinking, shit, I'm going blind. As you know what I'm saying? Right. 6 years old, I'm going blind, man, and she whooping me. Right. Like, really? Right. Ever since then, man, I just never go to my grandma. No grandparent. I'm talking nothing. Right. And everything. I deal with it myself. It's crazy.
Yeah. Booch, is it anything from Ignorance is Bliss and that you want to touch on?
I never had as far as like my earliest memory, it wasn't traumatic because my earliest memory is that I can think back, close my eyes and think back and remember is I was going to see my daddy. Like my mom was like, "We finna go see your daddy," and I mean I knew the nigga was there, but. Thinking back, I'm like, I don't think I never seen this nigga before. Well, I know I have, but
that touches something different.
At the age I was at, I was like, I don't remember ever seeing this nigga, so I'm happy to go see him.
That touches something slightly different. So in Ignorance is Bliss, so the story talks about finding this dead body, but before I go into finding the dead body, I start the story with my earliest memory, right? Which is my first memory is not finding the dead body. That would be pretty dark. My first memory is actually once again being in the projects. This is when me and my mom lived in Preston Taylor, public housing in West Nashville, and I remember this is my mind coming into being, into reality. I was jumping on the bed. I was like 4 years old, jumping on the bed. My mom grabs me, sits me down, puts my shoes on, and tells me, "Oh, we're finna go see your granddaddy." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool." Da, 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 da. And like that is the first memory I have. So that's what I mean. No cradle, no pacifier.
And reading that, it kind of threw me for a loop because that's my first memory. Well, not granddaddy, but daddy.
It's
like,
similar. It was similar.
I was like, the first thing I remember was mom saying, "We finna go see your dad," and I'm like. Come to think about it, nigga, what is it? I don't remember seeing it. I don't know what he looked like because I'm 3 or 4 years old, so I'm not thinking about. And I'm just like, let's go see him. And I remember walking into the apartment, he playing the Atari, whatever he was playing at the same little game. And that was it. That was the first thing I remember. Like that I think back and try to remember. It was going to see him. So it kind of threw me for a loop that we both remember. Mom was saying, "Sit down, we're gonna go see somebody," and it was kind of crazy.
And that's shout out to the mamas though. Big shout out. Hey, to the mamas. Like they say, like a baby goose, the first thing it sees an imprints on. And like that's how we imprint. Like my first thing I remember is my mom's saying like, "Oh, let me put your shoes on so we can." So with that being said, like, what is your oldest memory that you can reach back and grab onto?
It's like funny though. All right, so my oldest memory is I don't know if this happened on the same day, but my younger brother, not my youngest brother, but the one who's right after me, I'm the oldest of 6. Ryan. I remember having an iron and his hand being burnt, and he was maybe a year old, and I'm 2 years older than him, so or 3 years older than him, I don't know. But anyway, I remember that, and then at the same time. In that same apartment, I remember my mama putting a relaxer in my head. And I remember when it got too hot. And I was like, "What?" And I remember thinking to myself, "What is this? What's wrong with my head?" And I was thinking to myself, "Why ain't my head was in the bathtub?" And I was like, "Why ain't the bath water on? Why is my head burning? What is going on right there?" And that's when your mama lived with my mama.
For real?
Yes, bro. Wow. That's the earliest memory, bro. She was there when my brother's hand was Ryan. His hand was. I think the iron fell off the ironing board. And it hit Ryan's hand. Or whatever. And your mama came in there first. Okay. Was like, what's going on? And my mama heard your mama. Came running in there.
And then you said you picked the iron up. Was the iron in your hand?
I remember. I don't know if I picked the iron up. I don't know if it was on his hand and I knocked it off. I remember just picking up his hand and seeing it. And right here, if you look at my brother's hand right now, there's a V mark right there. And I remember looking at it and seeing his hand, his skin like melted looking.
That's
like,
crazy.
So even if you think about how, like, imagine coming into consciousness Right. So like your kids are like a kid is a kid. You're around, you're moving, but you're almost like a robot. Like you know what I mean? Like you're just doing things out of instinct, but then at some point your mind like kicks in, and you like the first thing you see is this is reality. Right. Like my brother screaming because he just broke his head. Right. He's like, what's going on? What am I? What happened? That's crazy though. Yeah, and me and Tracy go back like you were just saying. Like even my mom's living with your mom's, and so we were about 3 or 4 at this point in time, and it's actually a Jay-Z bar that I always bring brother mine, and it's actually when he do a song with Nas, that Black Republicans, and he say huddling over the oven, we was like brothers then, even though you was nothing other than the son of my mother's friend. I was like, oh man, I love that line. That's crazy. And that always made me think about bro there. That's real. Think about Tracy and made me think about Delvin, who will definitely keep coming up later on in this podcast. But it's a beautiful thing, man. But what was that other point that I was trying to make? The story in itself, coming into consciousness, and then there's kind of this cycle of birth, because the first part of the story is talking about the first memory, and even though I had been born 3 or 4 years prior, my consciousness was born in that moment, and then the finding of the body is kind of like completing that cycle with like death. You know what I mean? Like so. Do you guys have any encounter? What's your first memorable encounter with like death or the loss of life, or you know, something like to that degree? Were you young? Were you already older? What would you say or speak to on that particular end?
Well, I would say for me, I don't remember my first funeral. Okay. So yeah, I can't recall that. I remember being in the place of my first funeral, but I don't remember. I remember just being around people who was mourning. But my first encounter with that was sadly at a young age. I'll say around, I know it was before 7, maybe after 4, but it was, I had relatives of mine like tussling like with old barnyard bonanza style with a gun in the house. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, damn, I'm sitting right here. Y'all see me right here. Yeah. Y'all ain't, like, it doesn't register. So at that point, that was an introduction to a lot of things for me. That was an introduction to understanding who humans in general, people are, and emotions, and the volatile nature of that. Yeah. And then also it introduced me to like how simple life can be taken away. Because I was like, I'm right here, and if it just so happened these two guys tussling with a gun, like this, any moment, I'm right, and if it did me, and what's going to happen then? That's hate to be morbid, but I guess it's this is more of a topic. But that's my earliest memory like that.
I can feel you on that, because like me being about, I think my grandma passed away in like March of 93 or 94, something like that. So I was probably about 5 or 6 when she died. But before, like right before she passed, she was like on her deathbed or whatever in the house, and it's like we would go over and see her. And then my daddy would come, and like I see him how affected he was by like he was sick and hurt about it. But then it was like, man, I'm thinking to myself like, death. What is death? 6, 7 years old. I don't know what death is. But it can't be that important if he comes into the household to argue with my granddaddy, girlfriend. Hey, don't let him call you grandmama no more. So I'm like,
what does that have to do with anything?
Exactly. So I'm like, man, your mama is about to die, and you arguing with a woman over me calling her grandma, and storm out the house drunk or something. But then like at the funeral, it was a whole nother play. It was I'm so hurt, I'm so sad, but I don't know, man. Like I understood and comprehended well at a young age. That's why I'm ahead of my time. But that right there, man, it was like my first encounter with them. Then like seeing her after getting whoopings by her and all of this good stuff, but then to see her there, life is like it it didn't really pain me, but because like you were saying, everybody around you was in mourning, man, it made me sad too. Though.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm just crying.
Right.
I knew that I felt bad for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I wish I could put
yeah.
a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah. That's
wild.
That's a crazy feeling though, being that young.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
You
our
can
nature,
cry
though.
with like it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's super crazy.
Right.
What about Nooch? Do you remember an early life encounter with? I mean, you might feel like it's a downer, but you know, I mean, death is a part of life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It is.
And then to think about it from the point of view of a child, we often so discredit their perspectives and what they think. But at one point, we all were in that position. So I guess that's kind of why I decided to explore that topic and touch on that.
Well, I don't really remember like thinking about death. I remember hearing about like dying, passing. I remember hearing like phrases and stuff, but I never. By the time I got to the word death, it was just like dark. And every time I heard, when I was little, every time I heard the word death, I just think of pitch black dark. So I never. Every time I hear passing away or passed on or no longer with us or something like that, I always think of like heaven or afterlife. I always think of that. So death was always kind of like a scary thing for me when I was a kid. I always kind of tried to stay away from it and stuff like that. And then you're a kid, you see movies like, oh, he got shot to death, he got stabbed to death. And I'm man. So it just always kind of put a dark thought in my mind. So I always tried to stay away from it. But when grandmama died, when daddy's mama died, they called it passed. They said she passed away. And then it kind of made me feel. I understood, because at the age I was like, passed. I don't really know what that means, but I know what it means, but I don't know what it means.
Right.
I know I'm not gonna see her no more, but I don't know she's like dead. I didn't think of it like that.
That concept is
so I was kind of thinking about it, like, and I remember like I was with, I can't remember what cousin it was. We was kind of like screaming in the sky, like, I'm gonna miss you and stuff like that. As I'm doing it, I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't know what I'm doing it for. I just know, like, my grandma passed away. And they say she goes to the sky when you pass away. So I'm screaming to the sky, like, I kind of remember that, but I don't remember, like, I always got to stay away from death. The word death and the thought of it. So I always looked at it like my grandmama passed away, my grandmama didn't die. Like I always kind of looked at it like that. When I was a kid, so I got older, I understand the difference now. Like I know what it means and stuff. And
that's real. That's interesting. And I actually remember my father's mother's passing because I was a bit older, and so it's interesting that because Reggie being my younger brother. We experience a lot of the same things in life, but from slightly different perspectives. Because I'm 9 years older than he is. So my grandmother passing, me perceiving my grandmother passing, and him perceiving our grandmother passing is looked at from almost two completely different viewpoints. Because I remember being devastated, you know what I mean? Because I had lived with my grandmother for a long time, for a few years, and it's interesting to even to just hear, you know what I mean? Because like that's something that that's something that you never discuss. Hey, you remember when grandmama passed? How did you feel? You know what I mean?
We don't just randomly
Yeah. So that's very interesting to even just have in mind or to hear out for the first time.
I think send it to a dark place though. Considering like the circumstances surrounding certain things, you be like, oh, so how did you feel when? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That'll make me feel uncomfortable. If somebody asking me something like that. That'll put me in a hurt spot. I probably wouldn't be able to focus for the rest of the day.
Right.
I'll go emotion. You know what I'm saying?
And then I guess it depends on the conversation in general. But so I thought about. Okay, so since me and my wife are expecting, then what would my conversation be if they were to experience something like this before they were 5 or something like that? That's what another part of this took me down is, okay, well, how would I explain, or I don't know if y'all had that experience since, having Ethan.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, but so I, thought about that, and I think we were talking about it earlier, how we're more perceptive to things before the adult us can give the younger us the chance to reckon with or whatever, however you want to explain say that. But anyway, they took me down that journey. How could I what am I going to say to my child about death? And
congrats again on the
appreciate it.
On the little one on the way. And that's actually funny that you should mention that, because we were actually talking before that we started taping here about pets. And that's actually how I kind of introduced the concept to Ethan, because he used to just I used to randomly catch him saying stuff like, I don't know if it was like video game related, but he would mention death and passing, and oh man, it's gonna die. I just died, my character, and it used to bother me for him to be saying this, even though I knew he was using it in a purely fictional standpoint. I'm like, hey, stop saying that, because you do not know what it is. You know what I mean? That you're talking about. Like, quit saying, oh, my character. Don't even say my character died. Your character lost, or he got knocked out. Don't say he died, because death is a very permanent thing, and it's almost like I didn't want him to like desensitize himself to what that idea really was. But for his birthday, was it 4th birthday? I'm looking at my wife. His 4th birthday, I got him a turtle. I got him a pet turtle, and I'm like, my auntie has a turtle. Our auntie Cookie has a turtle, which has been living for like 100 years. Like,
it's for sure going.
Like the water, you go look at the water. That mug is brown.
It don't even look like a turtle was in there.
The turtle looks like a dragon at this point. Like, it's indestructible. And I'm like, I'll give my son a turtle. Man, that turtle lasted for 2 months, and I don't know if it was me cleaning out the tank too much, or it got an eye infection, can't see, so it won't eat, and then it passed away. So when his turtle died, I had to explain to him, my man, your turtle got sick, it died. You know what I mean? So like, it's gone. It's went to turtle heaven, and it's not with us anymore. And then after that, after he experienced death on this even small scale, I let him, change his language a little bit more, because we had a whole conversation about it. And I'm like, now that you've experienced this, expand your vocabulary. You can say something that, I died, but don't use that lightly, because now you say, like, his turtle name was Mikey. Like, we can never see Mikey again.
R.I.P. to
you know
Mikey.
what I mean? Like, R.I.P. to Mikey. Like, so actually, I use like a pet, the passing of a pet, to kind of break that down and explain the whole concept.
And it's good that you did because that was a perfect moment to kind of define death and what dying is, and without being too like, it's a turtle, for all the animal people, sorry that the turtle died, but still, like, it's a good way to do. You didn't flush the turtle or throw it away and say, oh, Mikey ran away, stupid. Like, what is that? Like, nah, this is what happened. This is what's going to happen. This is how it happens. Like,
and I think that's the biggest reason. I think that's the biggest opportunity missed by people in general learning lessons. They want to the biggest part one of the biggest parts of my maturity, or the growth of my maturity, was I had my cousin Jason. He talked to me even when everybody was like, you ain't supposed to be knowing what we talking about this. He would talk to me and tell me, hey man, you been a jerk. Break
it down.
Right. This is what you're doing. This is what the after effect. And I'm like, oh, so my actions have repercussions in this type of way. Right. So thank you for at least giving me knowledge of that. And so he's always had like a father figure type presence in my life based on that alone, because he's always kept it 100 with me. Instead of just saying whatever, Right. Of course, my pops, he instilled just work hard and take care of your family. Right. And, I respect that. I appreciate that. Yeah. But as far as having the real, that introduction to that part about it, and he really, and I'm saying that to say that was another thing that led me down is being honest with our children. Because we talked about it outside. I for sure. I had a conversation with a homie a few months back, and he was talking about his son, and it being a certain age, his son being a certain age, and he's not sure, what he should tell him or not, or what, listen, you too young for that. And I was like, nah, bro. Because what he gonna do, as soon as you tell him about something, especially if he's at any small point, like inquisitive about it, then everything else after that, he has somebody he can trust to talk about these things.
Right, exactly.
And if it wasn't for Jason, I would have never had anybody that I at least had knowledge that I could talk to about it. Because he brought it to me from at a mature level. Hey, I know you 11, 10, and right now all you can think about is dribbling the basketball as fast as you can down the court. Right. But when you came home and you didn't do this and do that, this is how you affected people around you.
Right.
But anyway, that was something else that I appreciated, was going down that rabbit hole. Also, see, when you got a child on the way, you start thinking about everything.
Yeah, be out though, man. It ain't no roadmap to parenthood.
Right.
Yeah, you tell your kids what you tell them. Just being real with them, because I mean, like, even before us, like, our mamas and daddies didn't know what they was doing either.
For sure. Right.
Daddies didn't know what they was doing. So we not gonna know what we're doing for the first couple, but you got to figure out what works best for you, because you can't raise your kids how somebody else raised their kids. I'm starting to learn that the hard way.
Gotcha. Okay.
I try to do the non-discipline, and like, I got my little girl 9, and then I got a son that's 3 months. So that age gap, I got to be super attentive to him. I want to be super attentive to her. She's used to that because she's spoiled rotten. But then at the same time, it's like she kind of now rejecting me because I spend so much time holding my son and not enough time putting fingernail, letting her paint my fingernails and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like
it's hard, man.
I feel like that's a learning experience, not only for you, but for her as well, because she got to learn how to
share that.
Somebody else in the house now, so I gotta.
Yeah, they make her super,
especially when he get older.
She's super aggressive now.
And she older than him, so but
she don't do that because, like, I don't want to say I raised her roughly, but I mean, I'm a little bit rough on her. You know what I'm saying? You're a little girl, but at the end of the day, you don't want nobody punking you out or pulling on your hair, none of that. So you need to learn to stand up for yourself. So she practices that now more than she has been able to, because now I can't, if I'm holding my son and I say, hey, Tiana, can you go give me the remote? All right, you sitting right there. Why can't you get it? I can't just jump up. I can't do that. I'm holding my son. So I'm just like, wow. Oh, Jessica, come in here and get your daughter. You know what I'm saying? So now she just kind of like brushed me off. I'm not even a threat to her. You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got so she kind of like, oh, I know when he holding my brother, he not going to do nothing to me. Or I know if he just got home from work, he's not going to do nothing to me because he tired. So now she's pointing out for all of that, man. It's like,
that's very interesting.
So quick question though. So, what do you think that translates for her saying that? Well, you mentioned it. You said he's spoiled. That's how we do. We spoil. So
but it's like, I don't know though. It's like she's spoiled. That's
spoiled.
She
used to getting her way. It's because she's been the only for 9 years.
She yes sir, no sir. But then she get them times where it's like on that movie. What's that movie? Inside Out, where the little girl started developing her. It's kind of like that. It's like I'm the red dude all the time. That's all I know. I'm 24/7. But then I got my son. I kind of got to be like the red dude, and then I gotta be the blue dude, then I gotta be the green dude. I gotta do all of this stuff for him so he can see that I have more emotions than just anger. I don't want him to grow up and be like, oh, my daddy was angry all the time.
That actually is a perfect segue to something that I just have to share with this group, and I'm 100% sure me and Tony have talked about it before, and I'm sure me and Reggie have talked about it before, but Trace, this might be my first time introducing it to you, and it's actually crazy because it's something that me and Tab kind of developed when we saw the movie. We all were big fans of the movie Apocalypto by Mel Gibson.
Amazing.
That's tough.
And this even give you more backstory on the podcast itself. So I'm gonna do a backstory, and then I'm gonna give you this other backstory theory type hybrid thing. So y'all just we'll play us out on this. So me and Tony is Cheese is Tony, right? So we used to have an apartment together in Antioch. Antioch is a suburb of Nashville. In this apartment complex called Chimney Top. So we were young. This is before I married my wife. And we had like this bachelor pad. But we was on the we were roughing it. You know what I mean? Like we were young guys. You know what I mean? So we didn't have no cable. We had the basic necessities that existed. So we had no feminine touch in our apartment at all. And so we had the most basic necessity. So we actually, Reggie used to come to the house. And what did you used to find like in the kitchen?
Man,
in our
go in the kitchen. First of all, niggas need food stamps, man. If you living by yourself, my nigga, get some food stamps. It's essential. So I go in there. I'm thinking I'm finna kick with my brother house here. He has his own spot. I'm finna kick it. Open the refrigerator, niggas, like 3 cartons of eggs. It's weird, but niggas eat eggs. No other food, just eggs. And then I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't know why they got so many eggs. Cool. So I'm like, they got some noodles. I know niggas keep noodles in the house. Open the cabinet. It's like 4 things of peanut butter. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is there so much peanut butter and eggs? These niggas making peanut butter eggs, omelets, peanut butter egg sandwiches, nigga peanut butter eggs.
All the protein you need in a peanut butter egg sandwich.
I'm like, good.
So that's just to show you like how basic we was living.
It's not like 1 carton of egg, 1 thing of peanut. 3 of each.
You get a carton of eggs for like 99 cents.
Yeah, we got like 4 cartons of eggs.
But so we got the most basic of the basic. We ain't got no cable at the crib. All we got is like DVDs on top of DVDs. But after a while, we done watched every single DVD like 2 to 3 times. And I come home one day and Cheese is not only watching the DVD, he watching it with the director commentary. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I need some noodle water. So I sit down and then we just watching movie after movie with the director commentary on, just so we have some variation. Yeah. So the podcast is almost like the director commentary for these chapters. But with that said, let me take you back to what you got sparked within me when you were saying Inside Out and you the angry version, but then when you got your son, you have to be a more mellowed out version. And this is a thing that pretty me, Cheese, and Tab had kind of developed after watching Apocalypto like 5 times. Every man comes in a minimum of 2 formats. You are the way that you are when you are. And we basically take the whole world that we live in, the cities, the civilization, regress that back to a jungle. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we are all, you know what I mean? We all derive from that man in the jungle fighting for survival, right? Yeah. So like if you take this back and the Flintstones, but you know, with our skin tone and give us some trees instead of all the bedrock, like we are men in the jungle. All you got is your hut. And then when you step outside that hut, you back in that jungle. Right. So every man breaks down to 2 formats. You got the hut version of yourself, and then you got the jungle version of yourself. And that jungle version of yourself is when you got to step outside of the hut, you got to pick up that spear, and you got to go meet up with the war party, and y'all got to go hunt down a boar, or you got to go fight off the invaders from the neighboring village. Right. And our whole thing was when you are in jungle mode, you have to be a more monster than man. You know what I mean? You gotta kill your enemies and you smear their blood across your face and you're like, who else want it? You know what I mean? Like, and you have to do that because that's you have to be in survival mode to do that. So we would talk about being in the jungle, but then after you have hunted the boar, you done brought back your meat, you got to go back into your hut. And then you can't be more monster than man inside your hut. You gotta leave that spear outside the door. You gotta wipe that blood off your face. And then your son run up to you. You gotta toss him in the air and be like, "Hey, look, blah." You gotta, baby talk to him. And then you gotta hug your wife. And you can't be the gist. You can't be the same. And we used to kind of be like. If I'm talking to Marsha on the phone or something like that, and Cheese lean in and he like listening to what I'm saying because I'm being soft. I'm like, hey man, that's like you standing outside the window of my hut, peeking at me. Like, what I just seen him kill somebody. What are you doing? Like, hey man, get out of my hut. Right. Like this is my hut. Like, you know what I mean. So when you said that, like, when you are with that baby. you are in full out hut mode. You know what I mean? Like all of the I hate the word toxic masculinity, but the chest puffed out. You know what I mean? The strong arm. You gotta lay that to the wayside and, like, you know what I mean? Just cradle your son and talk to him. So when you said that sparked that whole idea and mindset that we had developed, or kind of theory of mindset that we had developed so long ago.
That baby make you soft.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've been thinking about that so much. I've been thinking about, of course, we ain't no West Side to go back to for them to look at anymore. So I think about that because I want them to understand the building blocks in my, like, as far as my just perspective on life. And I can't take them back there no more. So I think about, because when I was younger, you know, late teens or whatever, okay, whenever I had kids, I was think, I'm gonna take them to prison, I'm gonna take them to this place so they can see what. And now it's like, well, that ain't there. And at the same time, if I take them there, all they're gonna do is see a relic anyway. So even if it was still up,
and they saying that out of context.
Completely out of context.
Not in context at all.
They're not gonna understand that that's all I had. So we were a family, and so these are the episodes of this, you know. So I think about that a lot about, and which is at the same time like what you and your wife got as far as like y'all. I'm like, okay, so that's what you do. You like we was talking about football earlier. So if I do decide, and so of course I appreciate the y'all, you know, being our guinea pigs. And
that brings up an interesting point because I understand exactly where you are coming from because your childhood and the way you come up in the neighborhoods you come up in shapes you so much. And when you have a kid, you want to share so much of all of the good things, even the good things in negative situations, because when we in the projects, we are in poverty, and you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be rough, but you like, man, it made me stronger in this way and this way and that way, and I don't want my kid to miss out on the way that these negative environments made me better. You know what I mean? So that's why you want to take them back to the hood, and that spilled over to me, and because when I have two kids, I have a son and a daughter. My son is 7, my daughter is 3, and when my son was 5, we started to play tackle football, and I deliberately took him to the hood to play football so he could be, you know what I mean, what was home for me. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm taking him back home, and I wanted him to be able to when TSU homecomings come around 10 years from now, I wanted him to be able to go to TSU homecomings and be at home. You know what I mean?
I feel
like, that's bro I used to play football with, bro I used to play baseball with, you know what I mean? And be comfortable at home, as opposed to we live out, you know what I mean, on the edges of Brickwood, and you're like, who are these guys? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I can't have that, man. I can't have that. So I understand exactly what you're saying when you're like, man, I want to take them out west, but ain't no out west to take them to.
It's gone.
That's an interesting point.
It's kind of still there, though.
You know what I'm saying, though.
I mean, in certain aspects of it, because, like, I live, you know, we all say 3879 Georgia Court. Right down the drive. So, when I was young, we lived in, I'm like 3876 or something like that, like 3 doors down from where my mom lived. You know what I'm saying? So, like, growing up in that and then having so many memories from that, but to be on that same street. I'm still on Georgia Court, but now I'm in 3613. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still on Georgia Court. It's not bricks no more, but the atmosphere still, like when I walk on that street, man, that street's still the same. I still can smell, you feel like just the essence of being in that environment. When we go down, when we leave off Georgia Court, when we see that wall, like, man, we had so many fist fights and pick up football games right in this area of the hill. So it's like I can still give her that feel, that vibe, but with it being, you know, a little bit more upward, a little bit better now. But you know, it's still, you still get that same kind of feel because my daughter, she big on her imagination. She can imagine stuff. Right. If you tell a story good enough, you can make them imagine anything. So you can ride through. Man, you know, it used to be this right here. If you can show them a picture how it used to look like this, but imagine that being right here, but everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
And to give context to the listeners and viewers, we're in Nashville, and it's going through like this big developmental boom, and there's a lot of gentrification, and like old neighborhoods are slowly like being not erased, but repaved, reimagined, and stuff like that. So you might see somewhere that you spent a lot of time growing up, and it's completely different, completely changed now. So that's an interesting aspect that I probably have never thought of. So, and that's it. That's us. Really, that's the podcast in a nutshell. That's what we're here to do. Swap stories. You sitting down. You kicking it with the crew. We chopping it up. We doing what we do. So it's pretty much like, hey, you come sit at the table and kick it with the kids. So, is that mine? Yeah, thank you. And so I think that pretty much wraps up Ignorance is Bliss. Once again, this is chapter 1 of A Poor Excuse for a Book, which makes this episode 1 of A Poor Excuse for a Podcast. I am Nathan McDougal.
Hold on.
One
quick second.
Oh, yeah.
We got to congratulate you, bro, on the first podcast.
Okay, yeah.
They got to hear and see the clinks.
Yeah. And this looks like pink lemonade, which it is, but there's some tequila in it as well. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate more than anything, hey, my brother's coming out and kicking it with me and sitting down and chopping it up with me here and allowing me to continue and complete my whole vision for this book and everything that comes along with it, and for people to see and even reading the material. And doorbell is here. My son is home, so it's over.
It's a wrap.
But thanks everybody. We'll see y'all next time. 1.
If shit get ugly, I'm gon' die about mine. I'm Black Boy Ziggy, I'm gon' fly till I die. Yeah. Roll 1, smoke 2, and now I'm high in the sky. So fucking bright, the fucking sun might go blind.